Bill, you've seen a lot of this in the past of what happens with trade fights, trade bickering, potential trade wars. What do you think of where we stand right now? Because we haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, I think we're at a very different point. I think the president's decisions on tariffs is a major change in the last 25 years in the way we've dealt with trade fights. I think it comes after a lot of frustration. I think Ambassador Lighthizer, if you go back and read his testimony, when China was allowed in the WTO, his testimony in late 99, I think early 2000, he pretty much laid out what he thought was going to happen with China and how to respond. And I think that's exactly what's going on. I don't think this is some game that's being played. I think it's real. I think the tariffs, no doubt, it's going to hurt both sides. And I think the president feels strongly that it will hurt them more than us. And he wants to right this situation. Chinese are in a dilemma. Much of what we want fundamentally goes to how they are structured and how they operate as a country in a one-party system. Mm-hmm. And that's fundamentally the problem, and that's the difficulty long-term. I think, they can meet around the G20 in June, but we've had now a year and a half of this, there's going to be a deal. Then there isn't, and the markets all respond. Then there's going to be a deal. I think the tariffs that have been implemented and the ones that are coming are going to create a long-term situation with China economically that may fall over in other areas.
You do think, though, that this is the right move for the president at this point?
Well, I think the discussions, the conversations, all of the last 10 years, 12 years, whatever, it's 18 years really since they went into the WTO to try to change the way they operate have not worked. Mm-hmm. And I think the frustration is, how do you move now an economy that's the second largest in the world and a very aggressive not only economic position, but foreign policy by the Chinese? How do you affect that?
I don't think you should try to put Bill in a position where he has to say Trump is right about something.
Nobody said that in the notes.
You did. I know he did. I saw it, but I don't think we need to out him on that. I mean, he's going to get you're going to get stuff thrown at you at the next. Well, you're not going to one of these. You're not going to hang around any of these 23 candidates if you're saying Trump's right about something.
No, but do you hear many Democrats criticizing him on this? No. Because in their hearts, very few. Because in their hearts, they want action on trade. Most Democrats have, and this is the world that's upside down now.
I just saw you walking a very fine line, and I wanted to cut you some slack and not actually pin you down because I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable position with everybody.
Okay, I get it, Joe. But there will be pain from this. And many of the voters that the president depends on will be affected by this.
You're talking about the farmers, you're talking about
farmers
steel.
and steel and a lot of working people that depend upon global economy staying strong.
How do you think this Huawei piece of it?
Well, I think it's a big piece of it. I don't know how it ends up because.
Do you think it's a trade piece of it, or do you think it's a national security piece?
I think it's a national security piece, and national security people have had for years great concern about this. Remember, the CFO of Huawei is basically in a process right now, a judicial process, to be brought to the United States for prosecution. That is a big deal, and to the Chinese, that may be a bridge too far. So we can all worry about the tariffs, but if she is extradited to the United States, and it's not as though, then that's a little chit we can do in a trade deal. Once you're in the criminal system, justice system, there are lots of rules that just can't be thrown away like they could do in China or Turkey or Russia. You think it's valid, though,
the security reasons, national security issues around this? You think
From everything I know over the years, and when I've been in the government or out of the government, I think it's real.
Real because you've seen something? I mean, there have been, in truth, there have been no proof points yet that anyone has singularly pointed to where there has been a so-called breach where there has been spy software effectively inside the hardware, right?
Yes.
That's the question.
But the possibility for that,
exists.
The reality that exists.
I'm not saying it's not a possibility.
So you wait till it happens, and then you say, oh, my God, this is terrible, or you try to prevent that opportunity.
Is it because of the relationship between Huawei and the government in China that is the big concern?
And the major companies in China, because of the system. Again, this is not some grand conspiracy.
Why do you
think requires
the previous administration, look, 4G in the United States, I don't know if people appreciate this. 4G, many of the routers and cell phone towers that have different signals are running off of Huawei devices.
Over the last 20 years, when China entered the WTO, and we were all celebrating that and coming into the world economically, 9/11 happened, our focus turned totally to the Middle East and terrorism. And then the economic collapse in 08. So you had about a 15, 18-year run here where the Chinese basically did what they wanted to do. And you can't blame them for doing that. And they've grown. Their companies, still though very much tied to the one-party rule, are out there around the world doing things that 15, 18 years ago no one thought they would do.
Were we wrong to let them into the WTO to begin with, or is the WTO wrong for not enforcing and policing?
Well, the WTO, even when I was Commerce Secretary back in the late 90s, it was obvious it was a dysfunctional place. And to try to get results and speed decisions was impossible. I think we were too optimistic about what changes would happen in China because of the opening of China and the economic opening. And we thought there would be political changes. We were all wrong. I think it's great that China is no longer a country with 1.3 billion people basically near starvation.
Right.
That's good for the world.
Right.
And lots have happened in the world that are positive because of what's happened in China. But we're dealing with a very different world 20 years later.
Just going back 19, 20 years, we thought there would be political changes, meaning when you were in the White House at that point, people thought it would be like a glasnost, sort of opening the way and then
definitely.
bringing down
not that there'd be some collapse, because the Chinese always worry about it like the Russian model of a total collapse, but that there would be fundamental change in the system and the way they operate, and the state-owned enterprise companies that really are run, if not totally run, they are owned majority by the government, and they're a big piece of the country.
Given everything you've just said and all your concerns about how this is going to be a much more protracted, longer battle, what's the best case scenario for the market's perspective?
I think they get used to it. I saw your guest a few minutes ago on the retail. I think there'll be certain sectors that are really hit, no question about it. But I think we will get to a new norm. And politically, the president now is so far out on a limb. For him to get a deal that looks like a victory for him with only 18 months to go before an election, as he's gotten everybody pumped up on this, it's very hard for the Chinese to give him what he needs.
If I could get a Bill Daley, if I could get any Daley to endorse me as a Democrat, I'd be excited because of who you are. Who's going to get?
I just lost the election, so not that many people are excited about me.
Who are you? Have you endorsed anyone yet?
No.
Are you leaning towards?
I know Joe Biden for 40 years. I think he's 35 years.
Is that who you think you get?
That's the guy.
Well, I think Joe has got everything that could beat Trump, represent the best of the Democratic Party, and maybe begin, albeit very difficult, to change this sort of craziness of no one even wanting to talk or be seen with somebody from the other party. Okay. Joe is the opposite of this new politics. Now, that may stop him in a primary.
Is there enough energy with an establishment Democrat like
but you know,
Biden?
Joe, if you look at the people who won in the general election in November, Congress people in purple districts, they were not the people of all the press are chasing today.
You haven't endorsed Joe Biden. You
no,
have
I
not,
haven't. But
you have not endorsed Donald Trump at this point, I guess.
No, that ain't going to happen.
That's not going to happen because I see you as a man without a party right now.
No, I have a great party, and I know
you got one guy. You got one guy out of 23 that you could.
That's not true. There's
who else?
Other people. Not your mayor.
Do you think Democrats can run on the economy?
I think that Donald Trump has made this election and made his presidency about him.
About tweeting.
This will be about him. It's not the economy, because everything is about him. So the idea that he's then going to say, oh, elect me because of the economy, his whole tenure, his whole personality is about him.